I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, I saw a hot topic going on Twitter here on Canadian real estate. And a guy back in Toronto had tweeted, he's got a pretty good following, he's in development in Toronto. It said, remember when everyone thought homeowners hitting their trigger rate on their variable rate mortgages, when that payment doesn't even, the trigger rate is when the interest or the payment doesn't even cover the interest payment. So the bank makes you increase your monthly payment. Remember when that was going to lead to a wave of distressed sellers, forced selling, panic selling? Question mark. Yeah, I sure do. Last fall, these guys were everywhere on my Twitter feed. That, hey, the bomb is about to drop. It is dropping, they would say. Panic selling everywhere in Toronto. Panic selling is going to happen in Vancouver. People's trigger rates are hitting. Because I think something like 40% of mortgages in Canada are on variable rate mortgages. Meaning, you know, that's a floating rate. So with 8 interest rate hikes that we had in 10 months, after about number 5, I think it was, I have one variable rate. I got a letter from Royal Bank saying, hey, we're bumping your mortgage payment up another $30 a month just to cover my interest. I'm not currently paying any principal. Now, it didn't matter to me. It's on an investment unit, and the mortgage is about $110,000 balance left on it. Peanuts. But this was all over in the fall, around Christmas time, in January, after our last hike. The bottom is going to drop out, folks. Watch out. Panic selling. People aren't going to be able to pay their mortgage payment. They're not even going to be able to cover the interest and will be forced to sell. But that has not materialized. It hasn't materialized at all here in Vancouver, and to any great extent it hasn't happened in Toronto or any other Canadian city. So what is the reason for that? Well, a few reasons. If you've been watching my blog for a long time here, I've told you guys over the years that the Vancouver market is a lot different than some rural area in Manitoba or Saskatchewan or even out in the Fraser Valley to some extent. My market is downtown Vancouver, east side, west side, Kitsilano, Kerrisdale, Mount Pleasant. I still do a fair bit of work in Richmond, Burnaby, Lower Mainland. So here, most home buyers are are using conventional mortgages, 20% or more. In a lot of cases, they're putting 30, 35% down. I'm privy to this because I work with lots of buyers. I also work with a lot of investment buyers. Investors have to use conventional mortgage, 20% down or more. But a lot of my investors, especially when they've buying their second and third property, a lot of times the banks now, they're incredibly cautious. Very difficult to get mortgages here in Canada. They are extremely conservative here on their lending practices, as I've talked about before. A lot of them are putting 30 and 35% down. So these are well-covered purchases. They're not high ratio putting down 5% like Evan Sindall there, the former CMHC head, used to talk about 5 years ago. Everyone's buying $1 million condo here with 5% down. It wasn't happening. So the other thing is, some people had commented, and I've talked about this, thanks to some of my viewers were directed these comments to some of my older videos. But a guy had said, you know, I read an article in the Globe and Mail by Andy Yan saying that half of Vancouver homeowners are mortgage free. Is this true? I don't know if that's true. That sounds high, 50%. But what I have said in past blogs is that Vancouver has the highest percentage of clear title ownership anywhere in the country, and some of the highest percentage of anywhere in North America. Clear title meaning the house is paid off. There is no mortgage on the title, a charge on title. Half might be a little bit high. I would say easily 30, 35%. I've told you guys every year I probably sell 10, 12 homes that my sellers do not have a charge on title for a mortgage. It is a clear title home. I own, one of my investment units has been clear title for a while now, paid off. I've got another one that's almost nothing. I'm down to less than $50,000 on the mortgage. Now, if I ever decide to start liquidating some of my portfolio when I retire, those will be the first 2 that'll be sold because I don't have any tax advantages with them anymore. It's all income, which is taxed at my full marginal tax rate. My one that's almost paid off, I'm just doing my taxes now, I had like $1,000 in interest last year for all of 2023. It's a very, very small mortgage, under 50K. So not a lot of deductions with that. And it's being taxed, of course, at 50%, which is, I'm in a high tax bracket. So But that is the case. Yes, it is we are not over leveraging here in Vancouver, and that's one of the reasons why this market is held up so strong. People seem to be baffled by this. We went from a 1.3% variable to 5.5. Why aren't we seeing more forced selling? The reason is that a lot of people are clear title, or they have an incredible amount of equity. My equity in my investment properties is way over 50% on everything I own. In other words, if the property's worth $800, I have far less than $400,000 mortgage. In a lot of cases, it's $200, $250. So I've got a ton of equity in there, and that's what a lot of lower mainland homeowners have. If they are on a variable rate and it hits their trigger rate and they got to put in another $50 or $100 a month, if they can't come up with it themselves out of their bank account, you can still tap into a line of credit. It's not the greatest way to go, but it will see you through if you have to. The money is in there. It's your money, and people can access it quite easily these days with these home equity lines of credit if they have to, but I think very few are even having to do that. Again, our market is much different than a lot of markets you read about in the States where people are buying with 5% or 10% down. The qualification requirements in a lot of these jurisdictions are nowhere near what they are for ours. Remember, people we're getting stress test on these mortgages a full 2% above what the rate they were getting. So there's a lot of buffer built into this, and this is why these condo prices have held up so well here. There is no inventory. There is zero panic out there. I know people want to believe that this market is going to crash here. I don't know what the market's going to do later this spring or summer. What I can tell you is the market right now is getting pretty hot again. We are in a seller's market in everything right now except for detached, and that in the starter level market for detached has now slipped into a seller's market, not a buyer's market. I'll talk about that more this spring. The market, there's very little inventory. There is no panic, and that's what happens. Buyers here or sellers here, a lot of them would like to move up from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bed, or a 2-bed to a townhouse or a duplex. But there's nothing there for them to buy. So what do, honey? We just sit tight. We're under no problems here. Sure, our variable rate mortgage has gone up another $200 more. No problem. We'll just sit tight, which keeps the inventory at record lows, keeps the prices stable, and now actually starting to go up a little bit, and also keeps those rents high and everything else. So I don't know if 50% of Vancouver homeowners are clear title. I think that's a little high, but it's up there. It's probably 35, maybe even 40%. But the big thing is, typical house I sell, a condo or an investor client, he might have had this condo for 15 years. It's worth $800. He has $100,000, $150,000 mortgage on it. So we are not over leveraged here. Now, I can't say that for everyone. Of course, I saw a couple of detached homes sell around Christmas time that I think probably were a bit of a panic sell. They listed them cheap, lower than what I would have listed them at. They sold pretty quickly. That, I don't know the circumstances here. I'm not privy to it. But for sure, I have seen the odd detached home sell later in the year, last year, that seemed to sell, priced it very aggressively for a quick sale, and they got a quick sale. Maybe those situations, they were in arrears on their mortgage payments. Maybe that trigger rate got out of hand on them. Maybe they didn't have a whole lot of equity in the home. Who knows? I think there's probably a little bit more of that out in areas like the Fraser Valley, where the prices aren't what we are here. Keep in mind here too, anything over $1 million, you have to use conventional mortgage, which pretty much makes up the majority of what's sold here. Any 2 beds, townhomes, detached homes are all going to be well into the $1 million and above. So you're having to use conventional mortgage, 20, 25% down. And that's why you're not seeing distressed sellers here. And I've talked about this for many years on my blog here. I know a lot of people, the comment section on this Twitter blog here, were kind of sad. It really is. There's a lot of people in there that just do never want to face the music. They don't want to look in the mirror. The comments were, oh, it's still too early. Don't worry. Give it another month. Give it another 3 months. Foreclosures are coming. I heard of a guy telling me that a banker, that he's got 6 clients that are getting ready to have to foreclose. Listen, take all that stuff with a grain of salt. Listen, these interest rate hikes, sure, they still need to be filtered through a bit more here, but we definitely would have felt this by now after 8 hikes. And it's just not out there. If anything, this market is going the other way, which a lot of people on this Twitter feed don't want to realize. Prices for condos downtown are edging up again. Nothing for sale. Prices in the detached market are edging up, not going down. So it's going the opposite way. That could change. Who knows? Maybe we see a huge spike in inventory later this spring or summer. I don't know. But for right now, these forced selling, distressed sellers just never materialized. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.